Hey, all. Welcome to another exciting episode of Coach's Corner. With me, as always, is my counterpart and co-host, Mike Lamb, and I'm still Adam Geheb.
You got it.
So thanks for joining in and listen. Today, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to try to change things up a little bit. I pitched this to Mike just this morning, so we'll kind of see where this goes. But what we're going to do here is we're going to do a little rapid fire questions, just really quick, back and forth. Instead of going a really deep dive into any one specific topic, we're kind of going to try to cover as many topics as we possibly can. Quick dive, question, answer, response, whatever. Just kind of see where this goes. Sound good?
Sounds great to me.
Who knows? It's going to be great television, podcasting, webinars, whatever this is.
I'll try to
Um,
keep curse words out.
yeah, we can try. Well, I can try. All right. First question I got for you. What is the top challenge that you're seeing with your clients these days? And are you seeing any patterns?
Okay, so the biggest pattern I see or I'm running into, and it might be the people that I'm coaching in the markets that I'm going towards,
Sure.
but it's a lot of people have a hard time committing to a calendared event
Oh,
and following through with it. And
yeah.
maybe that's I send calendar events. I use all the tools to make sure that they know, but that seems to be the number one problem. And I understand we're all busy. We've got businesses going on and things, but I think people, if a lot of the clients that I work with, if they were able to follow their calendar or have somebody help them stick to a calendar, um, they could get a lot more done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they could get in front of the people that matter the most that can help make the difference for them in their company and outside of their company.
It's funny you should say that because you're talking about usage of calendar. It really rolls back to time management. Getting people to be accountable for their time is an absolute challenge, regardless of the industry. It doesn't matter, right? Because it's so easy to push. It's, oh, I'll just do this later and do this later. Well, then when you push everything, well, nothing gets done, right?
Yeah.
Um, awesome. No, I'm seeing that too. Um, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna see if there's a question that you asked me later. So you're up.
Um, w- Kind of along the same lines, what type of personality type are you seeing the most in business owners and the people you coach?
Gosh, let's see. Personality types. I'm dealing with a lot of high D's. A lot of high D's and a lot of high S's, to be honest, right now, which is great for me
Yeah.
because that blends and jives really well with the way I like to communicate. But I think the thing about any of the personality types that we have to keep in mind here, Mike, is everyone, especially if we're talking about disc and whatnot, everyone's a blending of all of your personality types and traits. So one of the things that I've been doing with a lot of my clients as of late, as we go through the personality assessment and going through all the different behavior styles, is not really focus on what their dominant traits are, because I find a lot of people know themselves pretty darn well. But it's really okay. So if you scored low in any one of these categories, what do you think that means to how you're utilizing your behaviors? How are you communicating, et cetera? More importantly, are you missing out on opportunities, right? And kind of taking that step back and looking at the inverse of who you are and seeing, are there possibilities to enhance particular traits, certain skills, certain tools, can be really powerful because it forces someone to kind of reflect on, well, there's my way, there's the Adam way of doing things, but it's probably not the right way for everyone. And so I found that super insightful, but especially with, the D's that I'm seeing a lot of, because we tend to be a little dominant, little straightforward, little
Yeah.
set in our ways, maybe,
You
maybe.
used the phrase there, reflect.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think there's a lot of reflection. They get to that level one decision, get it done, move on. They don't take that reflection to level two, level three sometimes, of decisions and looking back at them
I
sometimes.
got to be honest, guilty.
Yeah.
I mean, guilty.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there. It's a good one.
And I would say I see a lot of D's, and that's what I see a lot is they're lower on a C. And
Yeah.
that's not because they're not understanding of, the things they need to be compliant to. They're making that level one decision to get things moving forward and get things done.
I think there are certain traits that work well with certain business types. And, the more and more that we're out there in the industries and we're talking to more people, I think that we will identify additional patterns there. But anyway, that's what I'm seeing. So, okay, this is a feel good, happy one. What is kind of the biggest client win that you've seen here as of late? And what does it mean to them?
Um, you know, the biggest one that I had just recently that it was involving personality types disc and sitting down with somebody
Yeah.
and really helping them understand themselves and take a step back and look at, things that are happening with them in the business,
Hmm.
uh, and what they're dealing with and realizing like that's my personality type and the reason that some of these things are happening is because of that.
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
and and so that was a huge win because that person came into the situation probably not looking to be coached. They actually won the disc for free through a raffle that I was involved in.
Very
And
cool.
now that person's like, I need coaching not just for the business, but for me personally on how I can improve in these areas that I may be lacking to firm up my leadership in the company.
Nice.
So
You know,
yeah.
it's great when people have that aha moment. I mean, you literally see the light bulb go off. You can They get excited. People always want to talk really fast, really rapid because they have all these thoughts. Well, I can use this here and I can do that there. And getting to that point where people understand the value of what we're providing, and are really engaged with the back and forth manner of the partnership that this truly is. To me, that's one of those huge value wins because when people get it and it clicks, it clicks. Now, I'll take it a step further. My favorite type of potential client is the one that has had coaching in the past. I don't have to do anything. I just have to listen. I just have
Yeah.
to listen. I have to question. I have to help with the areas that they're going to tell me that they want because they already know what they want. They already see the value in it. They already get the big picture. And it's just like, yeah, you're awesome. Let's do that. Right.
Yeah, yeah, and it even clicks for people not just coaching, but have done forms of therapy.
Mm,
They're used to
well,
sitting down and talking to somebody and being vulnerable and
well,
sharing
yeah,
things that
yeah.
that they might not share in a networking event or somewhere where you're talking business with other people. They're not going to open up about that. Their personalities don't allow that. So, but
You've
if they're
certainly heard me say this a few times, and I'll say it again and I'll say it again. What we do is a little bit of business therapy, right?
Yep.
And, opening up, well, that's hard for anyone. Um, I find it's really helpful when you start to see that you're working with someone who really is having a hard time opening up, or maybe is only scratching the surface with the truths that they are telling. Not that they're lying, they're just, they don't know what level of detail they should be giving you. I like to tell a story about me. I'm very open. I'm very honest. I'm a open book. You ask, I will answer. Uh, Throughout my entire career as manager, leader, etc., it was always, guys, if you have questions and you want to know something, just ask. And
Yeah.
I lead with that in my coaching too, because, well, if I can show my vulnerability, and let's be honest, there are all kinds of vulnerable things that I got going on, then it really helps people feel at ease, right? And more importantly, they understand that it's a safe space. It's okay to go digest and talk and share because once again, this is a partnership based on value, trust, and loyalty. And I'm here to help. You're here to help. If not, we wouldn't be doing this, period. Right?
A great read, and just kind of plugging for a book by Patrick Lencioni. It's called Getting Naked, and it's a
Okay.
business book, and it just helps people understand that being vulnerable is super important to business, and being honest and sharing it with people, and it helps your business grow. It's and so Getting Naked, give that a. It's called a
I have
business.
not read that.
So
I'll
give it
have
a
to
look.
look it up, give it a shot.
Yep.
All right,
Um,
you're up.
okay. Speaking of being vulnerable and getting naked, no, just
Please no. Family
um,
friendly.
so do you find a lot of the owners and people you're coaching are working alone in in the business and don't have peers to bounce ideas off of, or do they feel alone?
Okay, I'm gonna answer this twofold.
Okay.
So for the solopreneurs, of course, that was obvious. But even those that have teams that work in bigger industries, I'd say 100%. It's really easy for people to forget that being a high valued decision maker and leader is hard. It can be isolating. There is a reason why those hard decisions are hard, and not everyone can make them, is willing to make them, and more importantly, will own them. So I'm working with a lot of leaders that through, some fault of their own, some they don't have the teams around them, feel like they have to take on more than they should. And so the simple answer to your question is yes, absolutely yes. And what I've been trying to focus with a lot of those people that have teams that have those sounding boards around them and they're just underutilized is the value of offshoring work items. Let's focus on looking through the list of tasks that you handle on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, doesn't matter. Pick a time frame, and which ones are adding the biggest value towards your dog barking in your highest goals, right? So it's always about making sure here at Coach's Corner, we are a dog-friendly establishment. So you really never know when the UPS truck, the hated UPS truck, is going to show up and disrupt. But where I was going with that is, I forget.
But they're alone.
Moving
Doing
on. Moving on. Yeah, isolation. Sorry, no, I got it. Isolation's hard at the top. So getting people to understand what they're really doing and what value they're adding, and more importantly, what value they should be adding and they should be focusing on. That's kind of key to getting people to understand that they should delegate and they should push things out because they can do more, they can grow more. Everyone always says they want to grow. First thing, right? I want to grow, I want to grow, I want to grow. Well, why? Well, they don't know why. But they're never going to grow if they're going to continue to take on all that pressure. I mean, people have massive shoulders, but there comes a point where there's only so much that any one person can do. There's only so much brain capacity that any one person has. You can't come up with the same type of innovative thoughts, innovative solutions to tackle hard, complex problems if you're always looking at the problem the same way. So, you know, the isolation thing is something that I think every owner, every leader, every decision maker has to look at because you will be better. You'll make better decisions. You will have better solutions if you bring in more wide-ranging ideas. Uh, Agree?
Yep, agreed.
All right, my turn. This is a good
Sure.
one. I was
Okay.
hoping you were going to ask me this. What is the biggest impediment you get from people saying, I don't need coaching?
Hmm. Impediment to coaching. It kind of goes back to that first question, and it has to do with time, having the time, and also just being, and it kind of speaks to some of the other stuff we're talking about is vulnerability, like being vulnerable and opening up, to a coach and
Yep.
letting someone in to come and help them. And I think that the confusion for people is that I'm going to come in as a coach and tell them what they're doing wrong and that their business isn't working right, and they're going to have to
Sometimes though.
open up to me and maybe share their P&Ls and share like their profit margins on projects that they're underbidding
Yep.
and show some of those weaknesses that, we all have. I,
Of course.
I've,
Every single
I've,
one of us.
I've made those exact mistakes in business myself and really was embarrassed by those. And, I think people, it impedes them from opening up and being vulnerable and sharing it. So.
Yeah, I think you hit that spot on, right? I mean, getting someone to open up is hard. I think that there's even a precursor, at least what I'm seeing. getting people to admit that they need help.
Yeah.
Everyone, every single person, including you and myself, Mike, we need help. I mean, look, we just started talking about this before we hopped on here, how we look forward to this every week so you and I can catch up, bounce ideas. You are my sounding board and versa. And I love hearing about wins. But when people don't have anyone else that they can talk to, it's really hard for them to admit that they need help. And, here's a great kind of barometer. If you're getting by, okay, you're getting by. You need help. Okay. If you've had growth and you're stagnant and you're slowing down because you're doing the same repetitive things and you're just getting the same results, okay, that's fine if that's where you want to be. But guess what? You need help. Um, the time to ask for help is when you don't need it, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
When you're profitable, when things are going well, that's a really good time to sit down and try to request help, get a fresh viewpoint on something. We can go back to the old Blockbuster and Netflix, story. One reinvented, the other didn't. One pushed forward and was probably ahead of its time, but had the ability to kind of see that the market was changing. Things were moving in a different direction. And they went out, and I guarantee you that wasn't one person's thought, right? That was a group of people sitting there talking about strategy. Um, and that's what I kind of feel like we do for our clients. I just wish that I could reach them before they dug themselves a hole because it's
Yeah.
so much easier to help when you're starting at an even keel baseline rather than spending time to dig out because it's harder to show that value and to get the results that you want when you're spending your time getting back to status quo, right?
That's why I love the life cycle of a business and
Oh
sharing
yeah,
that with business owners because there's traps that you've shared two of them. The owner trap where they're taking on everything and not handing it off and
sure.
allowing for new ideas to come in, or the success trap. That everything's going great, I'm doing good, and I don't need to make improvements or ask for help or outside ideas.
Yep.
So that success trap can be a big one. And
Especially when you get people that are early on in the business process, that
mhm.
3 feet from gold trap, where you're so close, you've put in all that work, but you're discouraged. I'm seeing that a lot with a lot of young businesses because the economic climate is very volatile right now, and we're in an election year. And however, people fall, great, don't care. But there's a lot of uncertainty with what's going on, and I just want people to understand that this stuff takes time. You are laying the groundwork and the foundation, and that foundation, those core competencies within your business are what will start to kick in and take over and gain that momentum and traction. So, I'm really advocating people right now, especially new business owners, to really focus on their plans, focus on their activity, and make sure that they know that everything that they're doing is going to improve and get to a point where it's starting to pay off, and then you'll see that snowball, right?
Yep. Celebrating
Um,
the wins, even if they're small, it gets you to the next win.
I mean,
Yeah,
we literally probably just could have talked all through sigmoid's curve principle and every single trap, but maybe that'll be another episode.
it gives us some future material.
Future firepower. All right, you're up.
Okay. It kind of so networking.
Ooh,
Do you find it best at networking to just open up and talk to people, or do you drill down when you're meeting with new people and try to find out as much as possible?
I guess I would say it starts with knowing your audience. Who am I talking to? Is it someone who is a high C and they're not going to give me a lot of information at all? Is it high I or high S and they're going to want to flood me with stories and information and be my best friend and ask me out for dinner? I don't know. But knowing your audience is, I guess, key to answering that given question. Even if I don't know the audience and I don't know much about the person, I want to do two things when I get a new networking connection. Excuse me. One, very simple. I want them to walk away knowing what it is that I do. And more importantly, I want them to walk away with something of value. So, how do you do that? You do that by listening to what they are saying. You learn as much about the high level framework of their business and what they're doing. And then you're asking questions that are specific to their business or industry. If I can walk away with getting one or two pieces of information, then that allows me to leave my nugget of value, right? It's, well, hey, let's talk about, one of those principles we were just talking about, right? Sigmoid's curve. I can talk a little bit about a particular principle, a particular factor, a little nugget about, um, hiring for attitude rather than skill, or the importance of reinvention, or any of the other principles that we use. But it's always, let me plant that seed, and more importantly, add value. It's give them something that they can use and that they can take back and self-reflect on, because that typically leads to a much better secondary follow-up discussion. That's just me, though.
Yeah.
How about you?
I find that, yeah, listening, we might not talk about business much at all, but
Yeah.
if
Yep.
they if they feel that I'm genuinely interested in them and kind of almost go through a coaching moment of just listening, hearing what's going on, what they like, what they don't like, what's working for them, how, what makes them tick. And I can get that at a networking event in in quick interactions with people.
Hmm.
But I do find that if people really want to tell me what's going on with their business, it's going to happen in a one-to-one scenario.
Yeah, agreed.
A great place to get at least an initial feel for somebody and knowing them, but then from there going to the one-to-one scenario is invaluable.
We can probably this up and say you're trying to build a relationship, right?
Yep.
Rapport.
Yeah.
Imagine that, right? Crazy, 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 but you don't try to sell in networking. You're about meeting and greeting. You're about shaking hands. You're about understanding, listening. It's fascinating to see all the people with businesses out there. I was at a small business networking event this week, and, you know, even though I've met some of these people two or three times, every time you talk to them, you pick up a new nugget, a new morsel about what they are doing, about aspects of their business that you thought was cut and dry. And some of these times, especially at first, Mike, I'm walking away going, how are people making money doing this? But then you start digging, and you start finding out more information. You're like, you know what, that's really cool. And then it's genuine interest, right? It's like, tell me more. Like,
Yeah.
how do you do this? It's fascinating stuff, because if you're not walking away from each and every one of those engagements thinking about, if you how we can utilize what someone else is doing in your own practice, in your own daily lives, in your own business, then you're not listening, or at least you're not getting the value out of the listening exercise. Okay, last one, because we're coming up on 24 minutes here. So I love this one, because I think you and I both have areas of focus. What is your next area of focus that you want to try to start pushing with, whether it be existing clients or future clients, as we come towards the end of this year and entering into 25?
Um, it goes back to what we talked about the very first question is how I can work with my clients on overcoming procrastinating things, not calendaring and scheduling things and picking the right things to focus on.
Hmm.
And for me that it's Brian Tracy's book, Eat the Frog, you
Hmm.
know. Um, People need to identify the biggest frog that they need to eat and get that over with and work on it. And I think a lot of people procrastinate it or they try to just put it off till the very end and then eat it really fast and get it over with. Well, you could do that, but you could also break it into small parts
Yep.
and work through it and get it done,
Yep.
instead of just staring at it as the biggest elephant in the room that you can't get eaten, you
You know,
know. And
it,
that's where I read that book recently, and I would build an entire coaching program around that for some individuals.
I think many people have. I mean, that is one of the top selling fantastic business books out there. Whenever you talk about eating that frog and the different mechanisms of all at once or breaking it up, you know, maybe it's just the dad in me, but all I can think of is watching my kids at different stages in life trying to eat a piece of broccoli, right? At first, it's like, yeah, and then they throw it away, right? And then you make them eat it at the very end, and it's cold and mushy, and it's terrible, right? But then you fast forward several years, your kids get a little older and they get smarter. They start mixing it with their mashed potatoes or their gravy or whatever. And it's like, oh, look, Dad, the taste is gone. Give me some cheese, put on it. And then
Yeah.
they progress even farther and they start to learn if they cut it up into smaller bites, it's easier to maintain. You don't actually taste the broccoli. And I personally like broccoli, so no
Yeah.
uh, no negative views on broccoli here. But it's funny that you can take some of these principles, relate them back to your normal everyday life, and it makes them fun. But they're all learning opportunities, right? You're talking about eating a frog. I don't mind frogs, right? I hate snakes, so I'm going to procrastinate against snakes. So eat that snake. No way,
You
right?
bring us
But
for
then
me.
my mind goes to, well, broccoli. I don't know. I got nothing.
What about you? What are you focusing on?
This is easy. This is easy, easy, easy. I think this is the number one thing that I'm seeing universally in every single coaching engagement that I've pretty much ever had or will have. Communication. Communication, communication, communication. At the source, at the heart, the fundamental problem with most entities that I'm seeing and facing, lack of communication, lack of awareness, lack of the ability to get the proper message to the right people at the right time, clearly identify ownership, delivery expectations, timelines, dates, the responsibility factor. You can't get responsibility and accountability in a business, in an organization without really good communication. If this hand isn't talking to this hand on a constant basis, who knows what they're going to be doing. And whether you're dealing with a missed delivery, an unexpected deliverable coming in, um, doesn't matter. It's communication based, and communication is so hard to fix, but at its base core, man, it's so easy. It's so
Yeah.
easy. So I'd say the biggest area that I want people to focus on moving forward is understanding themselves so they can lead to better communication with their peers, with their spouses, because this is all stuff that you can bring home, right? It's not just work related. These are life skills that will benefit you anywhere and everywhere. So that's it for me.
There you go.
Communication.
Well, it
All
was fun.
right. Well, listen, I think we are above and beyond where we should be, and I will apologize to everyone for the vicious UPS man and that little interruption, but such is life, and life is messy. So, all of you listening, watching, thank you all for tuning in. This is episode 8 of Coach's Corner, and thank you very, very much for Mike and Adam. We'll sign off for this week, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.